So we're going to be starting from the very beginning, but before we proceed, I'd love to just start out by introducing myself. Okay, so my name is Shaka, I'll be honest. I happen to have 10 years hands-on experience working on and leading training projects in various sectors of the economy. And I've been involved in numerous interventions as it cuts across sales, IT service management, occupational safety and health, process improvement, and project management. Interestingly, I'm a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, a certified DevOps professional. I'm also a certified Scrum Master. I'm a certified project manager. I'm also a certified health and safety manager. I'm a certified IT service management professional. I'm also a certified information security associate, as well as a certified cybersecurity professional. I'm also a certified document controller. And I possess numerous other certificates in ISO 45001, in warehouse and stores management, supply chain and logistics management, procurement and contract management, facility and asset management, and a few others. Now, I've been involved in both international and local train-the-trainer certifications, and I've facilitated trainings for MTN Nigeria, First Bank, MedPlus, Grand Imperial Group, Lekki Consensus, PZ, Honeywell, Main One, Tennis, Wema Bank, Jais Bank, VDF Chromes, Netco, Daystar Christian Center, Masters Energy, Calverton, ICAM, Petrolex, Halogen Security, and a host of top indigenous multinationals, both within and outside the country. So I'm currently a partner and the head of training at Oak Interlink Company. And Oak Interlink Company is one of the foremost training companies here in Nigeria. And we run an array of professional certification programs. Now, I have a special executive master's in entrepreneurship from the Metropolitan School of Business and Management from the UK, and also a first degree in geography and regional planning from Abusali University, Echo. So let's start our journey from the very beginning. And we're going to start out by asking ourselves this very lovely question: what is a strategy? Now, strategy can actually be defined as knowledge of the goals and the uncertainty of events, and the need to actually take into consideration the likely or the actual behavior of others. Now, in a nutshell, strategy is the blueprint of decisions in an organization that actually shows its objectives and its goals, and it also reduces the key policies, plans for achieving these goals, and it defines the business the company is carrying on. Now, it also reflects the type of economic and human organization it wants to be, and also the contribution towards that plan to make its stakeholders, customers, and of course, the society at large actualize that original objective. So now that we know what strategy is, now what then is strategic management? Because even though we have an understanding of what strategy is, which talks about appropriately positioning yourself for what is ahead. Now, one of the very important things we must understand about strategy is actually having a foresight as regards the opportunities that will present itself in the next few years, and positioning yourself appropriately to take advantage of such opportunities. Let me give a clear example of what I mean by that. For example, some 4 years ago, Nike came out publicly and announced that they are going into the tech space, that they will no longer be producing sportswear, but that in a few years' time, they're actually going to be going into technology. Now, that was a very shocking news for a company that is involved in production of sportswear to all of a sudden start talking about, venturing into the production of technological products. Now, that was something that took a lot of people unawares. Now, as Nike made this announcement, of course, they began to also take actions towards actualizing this. So they began to drop a number of their customers while they began to gravitate towards actualizing this agenda. Now, this was like 4 or 5 years ago that they actually made this announcement publicly. Of course, they had already been spurring towards that. They had already been working towards actualizing that. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now, they came up on CNN and made this announcement. And of course, the companies that Nike began to drop, in terms of the customers Nike began to drop, Adidas began to take over those companies. And, it didn't make any sense at all. 5 years ago, when they made this announcement, it didn't make any form of sense. Now, obviously, for them to have made that announcement, they must have seen something ahead. They must have seen something that was going to play out. They must have seen something that was going to happen in the near future. And they wanted to strategically position themselves for such opportunities. Because one of the worst things that can happen to an organization is for an opportunity to show up and meet you unprepared. It's better you prepare for an opportunity, and an opportunity meets you prepared. So you find out that people who make headway are simply people who actually experience a interface of preparedness and opportunity meeting them prepared. So this organization positioned themselves in the technological space, creating technological products that could actually position them for the opportunities that are about to present itself. But nobody saw it coming until all of a sudden COVID hit. Now, immediately COVID hit, people could not go out to the fields to play sports any longer. So irrespective of the production of sportswear, it made no relevance, it made no meaning during the COVID period. Why? Because at that point, nobody could go out to the fields to play football. Nobody could go out to the fields to play tennis, long tennis. Nobody could do any sport at the time because of the COVID situation. Everybody were all locked inside. So guess the organization that produced the technology that gave provision for athletes to entertain people remotely. Guess which organization provided such technological products? Nike. Nike produced a technological products that enabled sports sport artists to be able to actually entertain the audience from home remotely using a technological product. So we found out that the sport artists, the people who were actually entertaining the people out there were actually entertaining them via the technology that Nike had actually created. So these athletes were such that, they leveraged on this technology that Nike had created. And imagine if Nike had stuck with the production of sportswear all through when they had gotten to imagine they got to the COVID period, they would have had a major loss with all of what they had produced, just like Adidas did. But because they had seen such opportunities ahead and they began to position themselves, gravitating towards technological services that could provide entertainment, irrespective of going out physically on the field, meaning technology that could enable you to be able to still entertain the crowd from a remote location using a technology that could help achieve that. And of course, it still created business for the betting platforms. And that gave them the opportunity to be able to make huge amount of money during the COVID period. Now, one of the organizations that made a whole lot of money, apart from Zoom, was Nike. Nike made a whole lot of money because most of the technology that, the sport athletes were using to be able to actually deliver that entertainment, even when it came to wrestling, when it came to football, when it came to long tennis. This was an advanced version of the Xbox, an advanced version of the Wii technology for gaming. They went into an advanced gaming platform that brought that technology that could help this organization position themselves to provide the same entertainment remotely without having to actually have their athletes go to the field. That is strategy. That is strategic thinking. Now, that is what we call strategic positioning. The idea is to be able to see the opportunity that will present itself in the next few years and positioning yourself in respect to that period. So it means you begin to gravitate and begin to put measures in place to be able to position yourself ahead such that when the opportunity presents itself, it meets you prepared. Though the market might not be prepared for it now, but does not mean you should not begin to gravitate towards putting measures in place and putting structure in place ahead such that when the opportunity presents itself, it meets you prepared. So strategic management, because this strategy that organizations put together in deciding how to position themselves must be managed. So that's where strategic management comes in. Strategic management can be defined as a bundle of decisions and acts which a manager undertakes and which decides the results of the firm's performance when the opportunity presents itself. So strategic management is all about the identification and the description of the strategies that managers can undertake so as to be able to achieve better performance and to be able to gain a high competitive advantage for that particular organization. Now, an organization is said to have competitive advantage if its profitability is higher than the average profitability of all other companies in the same industry where it finds itself. For example, in the same industry where you find the platforms that provide, remote, having meetings virtually, one of the organizations that had positioned itself appropriately was Zoom. Before others could catch up, Zoom had combed the market. So before we now have, Microsoft Teams, before we start having Google Meet come into play, this organization had positioned itself, even though the market wasn't mature for it at the time they had designed this platform, and they had designed it and waiting for such a time as this. That is the COVID period. And all of a sudden, people now had to take advantage of this platform Zoom. It was so much that the system crashed, because they didn't expect to a large extent at the goal that level of demand from that particular platform. And as a result of that, that gave rise to organizations that now took it as an afterthought. Organizations like Google began to introduce Google Meet, Microsoft began to introduce Microsoft Teams and things like that. So when we're talking about strategic management, the manager must have a thorough knowledge and analysis of the general and competitive organizational environment so as to be able to take and make the right decisions. Should we go in this direction? Should we not go in this direction? Should we venture into this? Should we not venture into this? There are organizations that have ventured into products and the products eventually fail because they made a wrong decision to venture into initiating a product that eventually did not thrive in the market. There are organizations like Udella. How many of us know Udella? They made a lot of noise. They were all over the place. But the strategic decision made as regards that business was not concrete enough to sustain that business. So even though Udella was all over the place, but it was just a matter of time, they didn't have the kind of competitive advantage within the space they were playing in to enable them still remain in business till date. Now, they should also conduct, when it comes to strategic management, the strategic manager should be someone who should conduct a SWOT analysis. And we're going to look at what a SWOT analysis entails. What is a SWOT analysis? It talks about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of any business. And you talk about managers, and I want to believe there are quite a number of managers who are C on this platform. I want to believe some of us here are actually functioning as strategic managers. So when we are actually talking about strategic management, every manager, every line head must be functioning as a strategic manager. You must be able to look at the business unit and be able to strategically make decisions to be able to guide the business unit as regards what direction it should take. And taking a decision as to what direction a business faces or takes is quite crucial to the business profitability. There are businesses that are just staying afloat right now. They are not making revenue. They are not actually making any sales. They are not doing well. They are just trying to stay afloat. Organizations like Nokia, organizations like BlackBerry, there are quite a number of them that are struggling. They are just a shadow of themselves. And it's because certain decisions were taken that brought the organization into jeopardy and affected the very brand and the very establishment of that organization, such that it could no longer advance beyond where it is. Now, managers should also use this results of the SWOT analysis to make best possible utilization of the organizational strengths, to also minimize the organizational weakness, to make use of arising opportunities from the business environment, and shouldn't actually ignore the threats. Now, strategic management is nothing but planning for both predictable as well as invisible contingencies. This is how a strategic manager functions. And every manager within a business should function strategically, should be able to actually think strategically. This is very crucial. This is very crucial. Now, what are some of the features of a strategy? If we were to mention what some of these features are, you will have something like this. Strategy is actually significant because it is not possible to foresee the future. It's quite difficult to be able to foresee the future. So you will need to do what we call projections. You will need to forecast. And forecasting is very key. The importance of forecasting cannot be overemphasized when it comes to taking strategic decisions for every business. So without a perfect foresight, every firm must be ready to deal with the uncertain events which constitutes the business environment. Now, the objective of a strategy is to maximize an organization's strengths and also to minimize the strengths of the competitors. That's the most important thing or an organization should look at when it comes to the objective of a strategy. It must be able to look at a way to maximize rather an organization's strength, meaning that's why a SWOT analysis is very key to be carried out on every business unit. Every team must be able to identify their areas of strength and their areas of weaknesses. Now, strategy is also created to take into account the probable behavior of customers as well as competitors. And strategies involve dealing with the employees that will predict the employee behavior. This is very, very important. When it comes to the employee behavior, you want to also ask that how are they able to respond to whatever decisions that are made towards the advancement of the business. Now, if organizations and their staff members see that this organization makes strategic decisions that are profitable, you find out that staff members commit to that organization and it ends up reducing staff turnover. Why? Because you find out that staff members get committed more to an organization that they see make strategic decisions that move the business from one point to the next, that moves the business to generate more revenue and become eventually more profitable. Businesses that start from just one or two people end up growing to become a conglomerate because of the right strategic decisions that the management makes. Good. So when it comes to features of a strategy, these are some additional features of a strategy. Strategy actually deals with long-term development rather than routine operations. Why is that the case? If I may ask, why is it that strategy deals, because strategy is more long-term. You understand? Rather than it being, short term. So strategy is more long term, and you have what is called operations. Operations is more short term. You understand? So why is strategy long term? If I were to ask you, why do you think strategy is long term? Anybody here? I can see Abimbola is here. Anyone here? Abiodun, Joseph, Anthony. Anyone with any opinion as regards why you think strategy is more long term and not short term? What do you think? Can you share with me your thoughts on this? Babatunde, what do you think? Chidima, any comments? What about you, Esther? Any comments? What about you, Favor? You can unmute yourself and share with us your thoughts, why you think strategy is more long term. Okay, what about Bisto? What do you think? Why do you think strategy is long term?
Okay. Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, start by introducing yourself, your name,
okay, I'm Sunday.
The department you're in, your designation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, all. I'm Babatunde Osman, the area operation manager.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So why I think strategy is more long term is because strategy is linked to the business budget.
Okay.
Okay. Which is necessary, and it's actually tactical implementation of the business plan. And usually, of course, business budget is usually budgeted for like 5 years and all of that. And then business plan also follows the same suit. So strategy is what actually helps to actualize these plans and budget.
Okay. Thank you very much, Babatunde, for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other person wants to share his or own view? Why do you think strategy is long-term and not short-term? Why do you think it's a long-term initiative? Any other person wants to share with us what he or she is, what you think, why you think strategy is long-term? Can you share with me your own view as regards this? Any other person? I'm seeing Joseph here. Okay, John, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Okay, my name is John.
Okay.
From the Quality Assurance Department.
Okay.
Every business.
John, it seems your network is breaking slightly.
Is built to stay for a long time. This is built to stay for a long time. And if you want to stay for a long time in business, you need to be able to define certain criteria for yourself.
Yeah.
What will sustain you and make you be ahead of your competitors within the space of time that you exist.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, John. Lovely. Thank you so much. Mrs. Mr. Abimbola, you want to share? Is that Abimbola?
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
I think for me, yes. For me, why Abimbola, please? Why is the long-term thing is we are not only looking at the present, but we're also looking at the future. That's what we want to gain now, but we're looking at the future impacts too. Yeah. So that's why I think it's a long-term thing and not short-term.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for that, Abimbola. Awesome. Wonderful.
Hello.
Yeah, Ifeanyi, you want to share with us your own thoughts? Lovely. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to just talk based on or from the angle of culture.
Okay.
Most business strategies actually have a lot to play in building company or organizational culture. Okay. And cultures are things that last almost an entire, maybe for the whole time. So if you are not careful with implementing certain strategies, it will either make or mar the culture. So you could get good or positive cultures along the line, or if there are strategies that affect the business negatively, people come in and people can't stay, and then the business suffers in the long run. So I just wanted to link strategy with corporate culture.
Thank you so much for that, Precious. Fine. Lovely. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. Beautiful. In short, we're sharing very awesome comments. I love the fact that many of us are quite, very smart, and many of us are already thinking strategically in our business units and in our departments. Many of us already think strategically. This is awesome. This is awesome. Okay, so one of the things you must understand is that why strategy is long-term is simply because it takes a whole lot of time to be able to implement a strategy. It takes a whole lot of time. It takes a whole lot of resources. So it means to be able to put resources together takes time. To be able to put a structure that the strategic objective can rest on takes time. Why is strategy long time? Because it takes a very long time to implement it. Operations actually is a regular day-to-day or weekly activity which can be, you understand, carried out, you understand, within a day or within a week. But strategy takes a whole lot of time to implement. The organizations that have strategies they implement that takes 20 years for them to actually actualize such objectives. The organizations that it takes them 20 years to be able to implement a strategy. So that's why it's long term. Now, I'm also going to ask us a question. So I wanted to, as we proceed, I want you to reflect. I'm going to ask you to share with me what you think is the difference between strategy, when you say strategic, tactical, and operations. I'll ask us to share with me what we understand to be the difference between strategy, tactical, and operations. When we get there, I'm going to ask us to share what your thoughts are on this, but just, ruminate over it, think over it, so that when it comes to that time, you'll be able to share with me your thoughts as regards it. So strategy deals with long-term development rather than just the routine operations, that is things that deals with the probability of innovations or new products. So new methods or even productions or new markets to be developed in the future is what strategy deals with. It deals with the creation of new products, new methods of production, setting up new markets, you understand? And it's more futuristic, you understand? Strategy deals with the overall mission, vision, and direction of an organization, because whatever mission, as in whatever organization has stated as its mission and its objective, it has its mission, it has its vision, it has its goals. Whatever strategy that you are actually coming up with must stem from the organization's overall mission and vision and goals. If the strategy or the strategy you are coming up does not stem from that, trust me, it will not align with your business. A business has its mission, it has its vision, and it has its goals. There are organizations that will not venture into any other, even if the opportunity presents itself, they won't venture into it. Why? Because it doesn't align with the company's vision and mission. Not every opportunity is attractive to a business. There are businesses that opportunities that align with its vision, mission, and goals is what is attractive to them. So it means you won't just venture into something, say, oh, because there's a lot of people are venturing into it, or because there's money in it, or because, it's trending, let's venture into it. No, that is not how a business functions. A business functions because it has an objective, it has a mission, it has a vision. You can't have a hospital all of a sudden convert to become an entertainment center. That is not its original mission. So irrespective of the fact that opportunities are opening in the entertainment industry, a hospital will not venture into it. Why? Because that is not its mission. So every strategy must define the overall mission, vision, and the direction of an organization. Strategy actually bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Trust me, strategy bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be. This is very, very crucial. Every strategy must bridge that gap. So it means in your analysis, what you are trying to find out, you are going to do what is called the gap analysis to be able to find the gap between where you are and where you want to be. This where you want to be is in the future, but you must look at where you are and what it takes to be able to get to where you want to be. So you must analyze the gap and carry out a gap analysis. Do you understand? Then you can now begin to design what is called an improvement plan. So one of the things I want to encourage for some of us here is to be able to set up what is called and have what is called, an improvement plan. At the end of this training, I want you to be able to go back into your units and departments and be able to look at what are the opportunities that are surrounding the business unit that I am actually managing right now. What are the opportunities that will present itself in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, in the next in the next 3 years? What are those opportunities and how far are we from taking advantage of such opportunities? What structure do we need to put in place to take advantage of such opportunities? What are the measures we need to put in place to be able to take advantage of such opportunities? Where are we right now as regards the capacity to be able to take advantage of such opportunities? What structures do we have and what structures are we meant to have? And how do we improve in our venture to setting up the structure to help us take advantage of such opportunities? What do we need to put in place? Where do we need to go? What do we need to acquire? Who do we need to take on? What do we need to implement? How much do we need to have? All these are things that you need to identify that will help you set up an improvement plan as regards where you want to be as a business unit, as a department, or as an organization as a whole. So strategy is a well-defined roadmap of an organization as regards stating how it's going to get to where it wants to be from where it is. So it's a well laid out roadmap saying this is the opportunity we see that will present itself in the next 10 years. And this is the roadmap on how we are going to get there from where we are right now. That is what we call a strategy. So management of that strategy is how to implement and actualize it. Good. So that being said, this brings us to understanding that strategic management requires a process. And a process is very important for every business. A process is what ensures that you can be able to repeat the outcome. It means a process is what makes you to be able to always be able to get the same outcome every time. It means to be able to get the outcome every time, you need a process. And it's like saying that, for some of us who cook, I guess when you cook, for example, if I say, Abimbola, why not cook jollof rice for us? Now, if you are cooking jollof rice for us, probably you will cook based on how you feel, based on your intuition, based on what you think, or how you think jollof rice should be cooked. You understand? So if he finds also to prepare jollof rice, I'm sure he will probably do the same. He will just cook based on how he feels, what he thinks, how he thinks it should be done. Now, there's a tendency that if any of you are to cook jollof rice, if you cook it today, there's a tendency when you cook it tomorrow, it might probably not taste the same. If you cook it next tomorrow, it might not taste the same. So is it possible to prepare jollof rice such that it will taste the same every time you cook it? How do you actualize that? Is following a set of processes, and which is always why people who are cooking professionally follow a cookbook. If they are following a cookbook, there's a series of instructions, steps that they should follow. For example, they say, take 1 liter of water and heat for 15 minutes and place the water in a 17 diameter wide pot. You understand? And heat for 15 minutes, after which you introduce 17 derricks of rice into that pot and heat for another 12. Now, many of us, when we cook, we probably don't follow such instructions. We probably don't measure the quantity of water. In short, when we even put the salt, we don't even, for those who follow the instruction in the cookbook, they follow the process of cooking. So every time they cook, their outcome will be consistent. It means we can predict that this is what their outcome will be. So if you have a process in play, what that means is that everybody can actually produce a consistent outcome, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their location, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their tribe or race. Their outcome will be consistent. So no, it's no longer a personality thing, it's a organizational thing. It means irrespective of the personality, as long as the strategic management process has been captured and put in place, anybody the company employs and hands over the strategic management process to follow, their outcome will always be consistent and predictable as every other person's own, which is very important, so that it will not be a fluke, so that it will not be something that will be try and error. It will not be something we are doing experimentally. It will be something we are guessing on. It means anybody who follows this process we can immediately be able to say that this person will get this kind of result. Why? Because the person is following a designed, designated set of processes. It's the same thing that happens when you follow a process in cooking ogbono soup, for example, from following the instructions set in a cookbook. So if my mom prepares ogbono soup and she writes how to prepare it, the steps, the process to do it, and I take that same instructions and I take it back to my home, I will prepare the same ogbono soup with the same outcome, because I am following the same steps she follows, the same process she follows, the same instructions she follows, and we will get the same outcome, which is very important when processes are in play. That's why organizations have what is called standard operating procedures. So what does that do? It means you can duplicate your effort in different locations. That's why you have First Bank Lagos, First Bank Ibadan, First Bank Abuja, First Bank Meduguri. Why? Because they have a series of processes which is standard on the way they go about their operations, that they can immediately tell the same outcome will happen if we establish another outlet in Ibadan, if we establish another outlet in Meduguri, if we start, the outcome will be the same, which is very important. Why every organization must set processes in place. So you must also have what is called, even though we have understood what strategy is, we've understood that strategy needs to be managed, you must also understand that strategy management has processes. So strategic management processes means defining the organization's strategy. And it's also defined as a process by which managers make a choice of a set of strategies for the organization that will enable it to achieve better performance within an establishment. So it means when managers are actually going about having strategy sessions, they are not guessing. They come up with decisions not based on a fluke. It means they come up with decisions that can arrive at an outcome that we can always reproduce. That is what this is about. So that when Mr. Bolaji produces a result based on a strategic decision he makes, none of us were asking, how did you do it? He said, well, I cannot say. For God's sake, you should be able to say. Why? You follow the set of processes. That if others follow that same set of processes, they will get the same outcome, which is very, very important. So strategic management is a continuous process that appraises the business and industries in which the organization is involved. It appraises its competitors and fixes goals to compete with the present and future competitors, and then reassesses each strategy. So it's important we understand this. And in understanding this, this will help us to be able to work with something that is very, very crucial. So here are some of the steps for strategic management process. Can we see some of the steps for the strategic management process you need to follow? There are 4 important steps, 4 very vital steps. So let's look at this. But if I were to ask for you to share with me, what you think is the difference between strategy, tactical, and operation. When we say strategic, tactical, and operations, what do you think is the difference between these 4 areas? Sorry, these 3 areas, I mean. What's the difference between strategy, tactical, and operations? Strategy, tactical, and operations. Can you share with me what you think is the difference between these 3? Can you share with me what you think is the difference between these 3? Abiodun, can you share with me what you think what is your view as regards this? Anthony, Esther, what do you think? Favor, Faith? What about Kehinde? What do you think? Precious? Share with me your views on this.
Precious speaking. Hello. Am I mute?
No, Precious, we can hear you.
Okay. So strategy, tactics, and operations. Strategy is mostly a senior management thing. So because most of the ideas, the policies, and serious decisions emanate from the executive management, and sometimes with the senior management too. So, but then when we talk about tactics, those ones usually come from middle managers. Okay, so theirs is mostly to find ways of making the strategies that the senior management wants to work out, and then operations, that's done by most of the people below the middle management level. So theirs is to mostly implement the strategies and the tactics that have been passed down to them from their own line managers. And that's what I understand by those 3: strategy, tactics, and operations. So it's more like hierarchical in summary.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
I can hear people. I don't know. Is there any break?
No, we're here.
Our host mic is mute.
Yeah, it's on mute. So.
Hello? Hello?
You're back.
Please, I'm waiting for our responses. I've been waiting for our responses.
Your mic was muted.
Oh, my mic was muted.
Yes.
I don't know about that. I didn't know it was. I was saying I was saying something. I wasn't hearing anybody responding to what I was saying.
I wanted
So
to be
please
sure
share,
you were there.
please share with me what you think about the difference between strategy, tactical, and operations.
Okay. My name is Ophelia Anthony. I'm the team lead of the microbiology department.
Okay.
So in my own opinion, and defining it in simple terms, strategy has to do with the planning with a long-term effect. Tactical, in the same vein, also has to deal with the planning, but it doesn't have that element of the length of time.
Okay.
Then operations have to do with the execution of the task. That's the functionality, the delivery, if you may say so. So that's my viewpoint.
Very lovely. Thank you for that. Lovely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Any other person wants to share his own view on this? Any other person? Joseph, Anthony, Cynthia. How about you, Kehinde? Precious, Prudence.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Okay.
I can hear you, John. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay.
Okay, so for me, in my own view, I think strategy has to do with, you know, when we are talking about the vision and the mission of the organization. So the strategy has to look at the organization as a whole.
Okay.
So when you are making decisions, you need to think about where is this organization going to be. So you are looking at the organization as a whole. And then when you are looking at the tactical aspect, it's more about like a sub-level.
Okay.
Looking at, let's say, we have this vision, but in sub-level, what are the key?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, in sub-level, what are the key things? More like key products that we need to promote as an organization to get to where we want to be.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then in operation, while you are looking at the product you are promoting, in operation, you just want to be sure that from day to day, you are still sustaining the basics of what your organization stands for. So again, strategy looking at the overall organization, the tactical aspect is looking at a sub-level of, in terms of what particular product, what particular move that the organization is going to take. Yeah. Then the operation is sustaining the basic day-to-day aspects of the organization or business.
Very lovely. Awesome. 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 Thank you very much for that, John. Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. Babatunde, you want to share with us your thoughts on this? Or
Okay, sir. All right. Okay. So as established already from your explanation, strategy talks about the plans of action taken by managers to achieve the overall company's goals. Okay. While tactical will talk about the skills employed to achieve these goals. Okay, the relevant skills and all of that. Our operation will now talk more of the implementations of things. Talks about the daily runnings and all of that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Babatunde. Kehinde, you want to share with us your thoughts on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So to me, strategy is all about the direction that the business should go. That is making decisions now. And asking this question, why things need to happen. That is the strategy around it. The tactical, in my own view, is what is going to happen. In a nutshell, that is now looking at the current operations and the various parts of the organization. Now, the operational is now combining what you've gotten from the strategy and also the tactical. Putting them together, and that itself forms how things need to happen in the business.
Thank you very much. That's awesome, Kehinde. Awesome, wonderful. That's a lovely word. Thank you for that. Any other person wants to share his own view before we move on? Okay, Esther, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Esther.
Okay, yeah, for me, I think
what department? Sorry, what department are you in?
Oh, sorry, admin and facility.
Admin and facility. Okay, okay.
Yeah, for me, strategy is all about planning to make to achieve vision, mission, and goals. Having to add more objective, while operation has to do with effectively perform the basic activities for the day-to-day or year in, year out of the business in order to achieve tactical objectives.
Okay.
That's my thoughts.
Thank you very much for that, Esther. Awesome. Thank you. That's very lovely. I love that. Your analysis is awesome. Hit the nail on it. Lovely. Thank you so much. Okay, so what happens is that your business must look at the problems that are likely to arise in the next few years. Your business must be able, a business unit, a department, you know, the organization at large must be able to look at the business and identify what are the likely needs people will have in the next few years. And look at creating either a product or a service that will meet those needs. Now, an organization can also look at, strategically, where are people going to be going to? What are people going to be using? What kind of instruments are people going to be using? What kind of tools? What kind of machines? Those are strategic foresights that a business could have. A business unit, a department can look at, okay, in the next few years, these machines will be outdated. What kind of machines will businesses need in the next 20 to 10 to 5 years? How do we fabricate those machines? What license, you understand, would a business need to be able to play within this space, to be able to break into this kind of market? What accreditation, what ISO certification, what license will we need to have to be able to play within this market space? And how do we meet it is how you actually have foresight as regards the future. And the strategy is, how do we meet those needs? How do we access those licenses? How do we break into that market? What service or product do we need to design and create to be able to help us access this new market, to be able to increase our customer base, to be able to generate more this kind of revenue? Now, in having to do that, you must have identified that strategic identification, which is where foresight and your analysis comes in. Then, tactically, you start creating. You see, tactics involves the build. You know what do we mean by build? Which is the creation of the service or the product that will meet that need. So when we say the creation of the product or the service is where project management comes in. So project management gives you the opportunity to implement the strategy tactically. So when we say because it becomes a project, it becomes a task, it becomes an initiative, it becomes an endeavor that you must embark on to actualize that future you are seeing, to get to that location. So what would help us to access that new market? What will help us to meet that need is either you are designing a product, or you are creating a service, or you are trying to get a license, or you are trying to get the accreditation. All of that is the tactical approach, which is normally a project. Now, when that has been created, if it's a service that has been created or a product that has been designed, it now has to be mass produced in order for it to get into the hands of many people. In the mass production, the sustenance of the every day reproduction of that prototype created via the project is where operations comes in. So operations is actually ensuring that whatever solution you have created to meet a need, that solution is designed to reach everybody. Because a tactical is only designed to create the solution to actually test run to serve one person, serve one section, serve one, you understand? So when you now need to reach and spread to get into more markets, reach more people, to be able to ensure you duplicate this. When we say duplicate, it means there's a repetition, continuous repetition of that solution, continuously providing that solution that you have designed to meet a need you have identified will surface in the future. That is when operation comes in. Operations is the continual duplication of the service that has been created tactically via a project. This is the sequence of the order of strategy, tactical, and operations. Operations cannot come into play if there's no strategy in place. So operations is only in a very immediate way actualizing what originally you have strategically decided to do. For example, now Nike produced a particular gaming platform to be able to get athletes to be able to entertain people remotely. So you have a lot of betting platforms leveraging on that. Now, that product that they designed, which is providing a solution to a need they saw will surface, has to now be mass produced to get into the hands of everybody. So any athlete in the world can use it. To ensure that happens, operation comes in to be able to ensure that. But it's still the strategic objective that is being actualized in an immediate form. So that's strategy, tactical, operations. If you do not have it in this order, you cannot implement any strategy if you don't have the means to tactically create either a unique product or a service to meet that need and to reproduce that solution to get into the hands of so many people, to be spread across the world via operations. That is how it works. So in your strategic management, you must ensure this process is followed. And the process follows 4 simple steps: environmental scanning, strategic formulation, strategic implementation. And once you have implemented, you now need to evaluate, which is the measure. Evaluate how well the implementation, you understand, is actually doing. Whether you have actually, the implementation has fulfilled its original objective that was formulated during the strategy formulation. So let's take it one by one so that we can understand what each of these means. This is very important. Let's start with environmental scanning. What is environmental scanning here? It refers to a process of collecting, synchronizing, and providing information for strategic purposes. Now, it actually helps in analyzing the internal and external factors influencing an organization. After, executing the environmental analysis process management, we should also evaluate it on a continuous basis and to help you strive to improve it. This is environmental scanning. It means it gives you the opportunity to collect data on whatever decision that you want to make. In short, in this environmental scanning, you will need to be able to do what is called surveys, using things like survey monkeys, use questionnaires, interview focus groups to be able to gather data. And once data has been gathered, this data must be analyzed. That's why you need data analytics. You need data analysis. and to be able to see the sequence of events via data science, to be able to look at algorithms, to see the sequence of events, to see whether there are patterns, whether there's possibility that this will occur again and again and again and again. So it tells you, you can predict that this will happen because you have seen a pattern via the algorithm that you are seeing. And that is where data science comes in. So if you do not have data analytics, data science, to be able to analyze your data as you collect it during the process of environmental scanning, you will not be able to formulate the right strategy that will get your business to move from one point to another. Then we have strategy formulation. What is strategy formulation? It actually refers to the process of deciding the best choice of action for accomplishing organizational objectives and hence achieving the organization's purpose. What does this mean? Let me let you also understand something. Customers don't need products. Listen, customers don't want your product. Customers don't want your service. Do you know what customers want? They want the solution that your product provides. They don't need your product. They need the solution that your product provides. So it means if there are alternative ways that solution can be met without your product, they will go for it. So what you should focus on is what will provide the solution. A product is only a means to an end. Do you understand? A service is only a means to an end. So what you should keep modifying is the means to the end, which is the service or the product. Because the solution can be met through different products. So don't focus your mind and say it has to be this product or it has to be this service that we must render to meet this need or to provide this solution. No, because you have seen a need in the next 10 years and you are strategically looking at how to meet that need. So a decision is made to design a product that will help meet that need. It might not be a product that is even in existence right now. There are products that have been designed from scratch. They were never in existence. They were not even in existence before now. And they were designed to meet a need. Let me give you a typical example. Apple created a headphone. You can see this now. This what I'm putting on my ear is outdated. Why? Because Apple looked at the stress of having to wear something like this and said, listen, is it possible? This has wire. Can you see? So it means I'm restricted. Can you see it? I'm restricted as regards my movement around the source of where this earphone is connected to, which is my laptop. It means I can't go beyond a certain point. So Apple provided a solution of what we call AirPods. We call it AirPods, whereby it's wireless. And you can be at any location and you can be listening to music and be enjoying yourself regardless of where you are. Now, it's so designed in such a way that even when it comes with a casing, that once you put it in the casing, it will be charging it. You don't have to plug it to electricity, or you understand? Once you put it in the casing, it will be charging the AirPods. Now, that is a product designed to meet, you understand, to meet a need. What was the need? The need to be able to be, not to be restricted by a cord. Do you understand? So you must be conscious of your strategy formulation as something designed to provide a solution or to meet a need. If whatever strategy you are looking at in your department, unit, or you understand, is not helping to bring about an improvement of life, either to make the work that people are doing to be faster, to be cheaper, and to be better. If you are not actualizing any of these three things via your strategy, forget it, it's useless. It means whatever strategy you are coming up with must be meeting a need or providing a solution that will make people's life such that it will be better. It will enable them to be able to function faster, and then they'll be able to get whatever they need cheaply. If it's not doing that, then whatever strategy you have come up with is useless. So strategy formulation is the process of deciding best course of action for actualizing or accomplishing organizational objectives, hence achieving the overall organizational purpose. So after conducting environmental scanning, managers, because environmental scanning, after environmental scanning is strategy formulation. So after, conducting environmental scanning, managers should now formulate corporate, business, and functional strategy. So I need you to understand that strategies are of three cadres. You have corporate strategy, you have business strategy, and you have functional strategy. Now, corporate strategy is an overall strategy that looks at the strategy as regards why certain products should even be in the market. For example, Samsung has different products. They have air conditioners, they have deep freezers, they have electronics like a sound system, they have TVs. So corporate strategy is to ask, should we even be producing air conditioners in the first place? Should this product even be amongst our line of products? Do you understand? So it questions, because there are products that Samsung has that is not doing well, but they are in the market. So corporate strategy is to look and say, okay, should we retire this product? Or should we upgrade this product? Or should we continue to initiate this project, this product in the market and allow it to still remain because it is a supporting product to another product? An example of a supporting product is, for example, you have a phone and a charger. A charger is a supporting product to a phone, a mobile phone. Do you understand? So you have a charger. Now, do you know you can buy chargers separate? You can buy earphone. Now, earphone is a supporting product, you understand, to a product called phone. So it means if a company, for example, like Arimo has different products, they look at the products that are supporting the other. That's what we call corporate strategy. They're looking at, if we retire this particular one, it will affect this other product. So let's leave it. Even though it's not making money, let's still leave it in the market because it is supporting the existence of a product that we have in the market. That's corporate strategy. There's business strategy. Business strategy, we're going to look at that a little closely. Business strategy is looking at the products that are actually in the market and that you are designing to actually meet a particular need. So business strategy is looking at your business and products that it needs to formulate as layers to be able to help meet certain needs, to be able to position itself, to be able to take advantage of certain opportunities. These are what we call business strategy. Business strategy looks at, let's create this additional service. For example, organizations have service delivery such that even though they are selling air conditions, they have an additional service such that it means you can buy the air conditioner instrumentally over a period of maybe 6 years. They can spread the payment. Like, for example, we have phones that are being sold right now in Nigeria. Now, there's a business strategy that said, okay, the phones might be too expensive for people. Let's partner with a bank such that they can spread the payment. Things like what we call easy buy. People can spread the payment and buy this phone instrumentally over a period of time. That is what we call business strategy. Meaning the business brings a new product, which is a phone. If they see that it might be expensive and we want to break into this market that we have low income earners, but this phone might be too expensive for them. And how do we do it? We create a system that can have them buy the phone instrumentally over a period of time. So the phone will be in their hands and they will be able to enjoy that service. The business will also be able to make sales, and the client is buying the phone at his or her convenience. It's not under pressure. That is corporate business strategy. Then you have functional strategy. Functional strategy goes down to departments. It goes down to units. So it begins to look at units, begins to look at departments, coming up with strategies to address, you understand, their problems within their units. For example, procurement is looking at functional strategies to bring about more cost savings as regards certain things they are procuring. That's functional strategies. Then we have what we call strategy implementation. Whatever strategy you formulated must be implemented. So strategy implementation implies making the strategy work as intended or putting the organization's chosen strategy into action. So it means it's executing the strategy that has been formulated. Do you understand? So strategy implementation includes designing the organization's structure, distributing resources, developing decision-making processes, and even managing human resources. All this involves strategy implementation. Do you understand? And the strategy implementation, you understand, requires you to be able to come up with an organizational structure that the business can rely on, so that whatever is put in place, there's a structure to sustain it. You don't just implement a strategy by putting up a product that has no structure to sustain it. Do you understand? So it needs to have a structure that will sustain it such that it can still continue to be in place. Then you have strategy evaluation. Strategy evaluation actually involves the final step of strategy management process. And the key strategy evaluation activities are things like appraising both the internal and external factors. We're going to look at that a little closely, that are the root of the present strategies, measuring performance, and also taking remedial corrective action. What does that mean? It means even when you have implemented the strategy, you must evaluate and measure how the strategy is doing. There are strategies that are implemented which must have been overestimated that it will address a particular problem, only to be implemented and to find out that it's not actually solving the problem. Do you understand? So evaluation is such that it must be able to adjust your strategy. So sometimes you might go back to formulation. In your evaluation of your strategy, you now realize, oh, we didn't formulate this thing to look at this other part of the market. So you go back to strategy formulation, then you implement, then you evaluate again, then you look, is it meeting its expectation? Is it fulfilling its objective? Is it achieving what we want? Those are the things you are measuring. And the way to measure, they are measuring instruments that you can use to measure how well a thing is progressing, how well a thing is functioning. And we're going to look at some of these, measurement tools that can help you measure, Good. So there are components of this strategic management process. What are the components? Because when we're looking at the components of this strategic management process, it has certain steps, and the steps these are the steps that are actually carried in a chronological order when creating a new strategic management plan. So the strategic management is actually an ongoing process. Therefore, it must be realized that each component interacts with the other components, and that this is actually interaction such that it often happens sometimes in a sequential order. So looking at the environmental scanning, remember, environmental scanning involves internal as well as external analysis of the environment. So if you are going to go into strategy and carry out, a strategy that you're trying to implement, you must look at every aspect of it, internal and external. And why is this important? We're going to see this. You see, the environment must be scanned so as to determine development and forecast of factors that will influence the organizational success. Now, when looking at the environment and you're scanning, it starts with looking at the product life cycle. So if you have products, for example, in the market, or you have a service that you are rendering to customers right now, you must look at the life cycle and the stage this product is at. You understand? You must look at the stage in the product life cycle that your service is at. For example, when we talk about the product life cycle, every product has a life cycle. It's just like human beings. Every human being has a life cycle. It starts from infancy to adolescence, to the teenage, you understand, to adults, then to elderly. So every human being has a life cycle. So also the service you are rendering right now as a company, and the products that you have created in serving the market, it has a life cycle. So there's the stage at which you introduced this product into the market, obviously. Then people began to purchase this product, and then the demand started increasing. That is when growth started happening. It means your product started growing in the market because there was more demand after launch, after you have launched it and introduced it into the market. Now it gets to a point where the product or the service you are rendering, there's a saturation that happens. And this saturation that happens, you must not allow saturation to turn to decline before you now start having strategy sessions to think of what to do next. It is a very wrong approach. In short, at the point where saturation is happening, you should be introducing a new product or a new service to be able to ensure there's no nosedive, there's no dip, there's no decline in your revenue. Because once a saturation happens, it means your product has saturated the market. You should either start using a strategy to either look at new markets. For example, it got to a time that DSTV had saturated the market with their product called GoTV. Then they began to look at, okay, let's break into other new markets, like, break into Edo State, break into, Ekiti State, break into, other states with our product. That was a strategic decision. Do you understand? Why? Because it had gotten to a point of saturation. Because there are products that are already in the hands of everybody, or the service has been rendered so many times again that people are tired and they're looking for something new. At that point, a decline starts happening. People start losing interest. Do you understand? People start, looking for something new. The products start losing relevance. And once that decline starts happening, the next thing is that they will start looking for alternatives. And once they start looking for alternatives, and your competitors are there to provide those alternatives.
Please check your mail. Have you seen that ICT kit thing?
Even though you are claiming that there's customer loyalty,
no,
you will lose those customers if you do not come up with any new product or new service or new strategy or new approach to actually sustain those customers. So it means at the point of maturity, where saturation has happened, is where your strategy sessions, you understand, should have. So your strategy sessions should have happened before this time. So when maturity is hitting, your service or product has hit maturity, you are introducing a new product or a new service providing solution to the customer's need or addressing a problem. So once your product has gotten to that maturity stage, or your service has gotten to that maturity stage, then is when you should now introduce a new product via a project. Now, should you have sat down to, is it at the maturity stage you start coming up with strategies? No. Is it at the maturity stage? Listen, is it at the maturity stage you start thinking and having to come up with ideas? No. What should you have done? That's where this comes in. You should have had products in your product pipeline, or you should have come up with types of service you want to render in your service pipeline. Now, what does that mean? It means there are organizations that have research and development. What is the purpose of research and development? You have people who come to work and sit down and think about new ideas. You understand? That the market will need in the next few years. Now, the market might not be mature for it, but they have sat down and designed it down. That the time the market now is ripe for it, it is not then we'll be thinking of what to introduce. We have already sat down to think of it, and we have put it in a pipeline, awaiting the time when the market will be ripe for it. It is then we'll now introduce it into the market when the market is ripe for it. Imagine there was a company that had already sat down and designed sanitizers. So initially, they were only servicing one level of customer. So they only had sanitizers for, babies. So those sanitizers were only for the purpose of, so that when the baby nappy has been removed, they can be able to clean off the baby so that the baby doesn't have rashes. So they had those sanitizers for that level. Now, it was at a low level, but immediately COVID hit, because they already had the design for that product in their pipeline, they just launched it into the market. Imagine companies that were at that time started exploring the formula for the putting together of sanitizers, then having to now say, oh, how do we package it? By the time they are thinking about that, in the time when the thing is needed and the market is mature for it, their competition has already, they've already covered the entire market. They are all over the place. So by the time they are coming in, their competition has already taken monotony of the market. So before they can break it, it will become difficult, which is what happened, you understand, when other companies were trying to break it, when Indomie noodles had taken they had the monotony of the market. You understand? So there are companies that once they call them the first mover, the first market movers, meaning they were the first to get to the market. So customers remain loyal to them, you understand, and it'll be difficult to hijack loyalty from those customers. So once you have your service pipeline, now it is when maturity starts happening in terms of your product and services, then you now start introducing products from your pipeline, from your product pipeline or service pipeline into the market. And that is where project management comes. That is when you now embark on a project to produce a prototype of it, you understand? Then operations will not take over to mass produce it so that it can get into the hands of everybody. The operations is the continuous sustenance of the reproduction of that prototype. And that's where manufacturing comes in. That's where production comes in. Do you understand? And if it's a service, that's where what we call customer service comes in to maintain and ensure that there is that's where operation comes in. Customer service, help desk, things like that, to ensure they serve the customer in case they have challenges or issues as regards the service that have been rendered to them. They might have bought a product or whatever the case may be. For customer service, help desk, emergency centers, all those things are under operations to address any concerns any of the customers might have after they bought the product from you. So you must also highlight all your services. So there's what we call service catalog. It means there are products that companies have, nobody's aware of them because they don't have a layout of all the services for people to know. And that's why there's a difference between brand awareness and product awareness. There are people who know Coca-Cola, but they don't know that Coca-Cola also produce bottled water. They don't know that Coca-Cola also produce, you understand, other products, apart from the Coca-Cola Coke that many of us know. Do you understand? Some people don't even know that Coca-Cola also has 1 liter that they also produce. They only know of the 35cl. So it means you must have a catalog, meaning you must have the display of all the products you have in your product line so that the customer can be aware that your brand has all these products. Do you understand? So that the customer will have brand awareness, not product awareness alone, brand awareness. They will know all the services you render. You understand? Why? Because even if they don't need that service, their friend might need that service. Their colleague might need that service. Their church member might need that service. Their neighbor might need that service. So it means they can refer someone else to your other services if they know you have those other services. It's important. Then there are services or products you have that are not doing well. You must retire them from the market. Don't let them be occupying space and you are spending money marketing them. Meanwhile, they are not generating revenue for them. They are not generating revenue for you. What should you do? Retire them. When you retire them, it might not mark the end of the product. Retire it and remodify it and relaunch it. Do you understand? There are products that you retire, you look at it, you revamp it, you modify it, then you reintroduce it into the market. These are all strategies you can adopt to still remain relevant in business. So in your environmental scanning, remember, you are looking at external, the things that could affect, you understand? And one of the things you can use to evaluate externally is what we call pest tool. Pest tool. How many of us have heard of pest tool? Now, what do you think pest tool means? Can anybody share with me what he or she thinks pest tool means? You can put it in the chat room. What do you think pest tool means? I'm going to type it, what I mean by pest tool. Look at the chat room, you see it, pest tool, pest tool. Now, let me give you a hint. P stands for political. So share with me what you understand. How many of us have heard of pest tool before? It's a strategy management tool that is used to be able to do environmental scanning externally. You understand? To scan externally. What are the likely factors that could influence, you understand, our business externally?
Okay. Hello, sir.
There could be economic. I've given us 2 hints. Any other person?
Hello, sir. Hello. Can you hear me?
Any other person?
Can you hear me, sir?
Thank you, Anthony. Economic, yeah. Thank you, Anthony. Social, yeah. Any other person? At least we now know 3. Let me leave others to share with us what you think are the others. Pest tool is a lovely tool to use for environmental scanning. Any other person? Nobody else knows? Oh, thank you, environmental. Yeah, thank you very much for that. That E at the last part is environmental. Yeah, legal. Thank you very much for that, Chidima. Lovely, legal. Thank you very much, Uche, for the environmental that you pointed out. Any other one? Yeah, someone has Shola, thank you very much. You pointed out social and technology. Thank you. So it's political, economic. So you look at the political influence of, there are projects, there are organizations that, because of the political instability, it affects the strategy. So you can be coming up with strategies, but you must look at the stability of the location. Do you understand? There are some strategies, no matter how much you want to actualize certain things, you must look at how politically ready the environment is for what you're about to introduce. You must also look at the economy. You understand? Maybe there's a what we call recession right now, and then that recession will affect economically the things you want to venture into. You can look at social. You understand how people are actually relating as regards what you're doing, how they are relating to what you're doing. You understand? How interaction amongst people as regards what you are introducing, whether people are actually talking about it to other people, looking at technology, you're looking at legal, you're looking at environment. These are all very important environmental scanning tools that you can utilize. It's called pest tool. You understand? Another very lovely one, that you can utilize, because you must look at the environmental, from the internal and external standpoint. You understand? And when we say internal analysis of your environment is the first step of your environmental scanning. How? Organizations should actually observe the internal organizational environment. And this includes employee interaction with other employees. You understand? Employee interaction, even with management as well. They must also look at employee interaction in terms of manager interaction with other managers, and management interaction with even stakeholders, and then access to natural resources, brand awareness, organizational structure, main staff, operational potentials, and so on and so forth. You understand? So moreover, we must have discussions, interviews, and surveys that can actually also be used to assess the internal environment in your analysis. So internal analysis, you can carry out a SWOT analysis, you can use surveys, you understand, and use a tool called SurveyMonkey, like I mentioned earlier, and all of that. So one of the things you must do in your analysis, you understand, it must also be able to carry out what is called a quantitative analysis. Why is this important? Because you must also analyze, even if you are coming up with a strategy, you must find out, who are my competitions? You are coming up, you want to introduce a new product to address a need, or you want to introduce a solution to be able to actually address a particular problem. And that will position your company to be able to have an advantage in the market. So you must find out what your competition is doing. What edge and advantage does your competition have over you? So you must look at what is called quantitative analysis. Find out what your competition is offering. When we talk about quantitative analysis, is a review of your competitive landscape to find out what your competitors are doing right now. Do Do you understand? So one of the very important tools you can use is what we call the VRAIL. VRAIL is a very lovely tool that you can use, and it helps you to be able to actually look at it from a resource-based viewpoint. You understand? From a resource view-based point, you understand? Because you have certain resources that probably might give you advantage over your competition. So the question here is, how do we now turn the company's resources to enable us sustain competitive advantage in the market right now? So when we talk about resources, we are talking about the firm's resources like assets, capabilities, organizational processes, firm attributes, information, knowledge, controlled by a firm that actually enables it to improve either its efficiency or its effectiveness. You understand? And when we talk about resources, there are tangible resources and intangible resources. Examples of such tangible resources like equipment, machinery, inventory, vehicles, lands, buildings, cash, and so on and so forth. These are all tangible resources. What about intangible resources? Examples of such intangible resources are like trademarks, copyrights. You understand? The know-how of how to go about this. The other competitions, they don't know how to go about it, but you understand? Brand reputation, patents, licenses, you understand? They are all intangible resources. You have organizational culture, you understand? There are some international organizations that want to play in the space that you are playing in right now at a local level. Do you know that you have a competitive advantage over them? Why? You have an understanding of the culture of the people. You understand? It's like an international company that's setting up a restaurant in Lagos. You understand? And they are trying to prepare certain meals that Nigerians like. Of course, if a local company, indigenous company originates from here and set up a restaurant, of course, they will have an advantage because they understand what the local people like in terms of whether they like spicy food, whether the way they like their chicken being prepared, whether they love taking water before they eat. They love, so they have a competitive advantage, which we call organizational culture. You understand? Now, when we are looking at the VRAIL tool to be able to analyze whether you have competitive advantage or not from a resource-based standpoint, it starts with finding out what resource you have, whether it is valuable in the first place. There are resources you are actually holding within your organization, within your department, within your unit, amongst your team that is valuable. Do you understand? And when we say valuable, you must look at and ask yourself, is it valuable? You understand? And your analysis of this is based on a net present value. You understand? It's based on a net present value. And we say net present value, you're actually looking at, from the standpoint of future value and net present value. So we said future value. What's the future value of this resource we are holding? What's the present value? You must do that calculation to be able to find out whether it's valuable. If it is not valuable, then you have no competitive advantage. But if it is valuable, then you move to the next, because you answered yes, then you move to the next point, which is to find out this resource I have, if it's valuable, is it rare? Now, question, if you are asking yourself that, is this resource rare? Meaning that, is it available everywhere? Or is it scarce? You understand? Now, the more scarce a resource is, the more valuable it is. You understand? So if the answer is no, then it has no competitive parity. It means when we talk about if it is not rare, then when comparing it with what your competition has, the resources they have, you understand, then you have no competitive advantage as regards the fact that when you pair it with others, they also have it. So they will also take advantage of the opportunities you are taking advantage of because they have the same resource you have, you understand, and it's not rare or scarce. But if it is rare, it's not available everywhere. Very few people have it. Very few organizations have this resource. You understand? It could be, the resource could be a particular machine. It could be a license. It could be a patent. You understand? It could be a particular type of personnel. You understand? That is very intelligent, that is smart, that is, It could be a type of expertise. It could be a skill set that is rare. Do you understand? So if the answer is yes, then it takes you to the next question, that is this resource, can it be imitated? You understand? If it is rare, then the next thing is that people will be trying to imitate it. You understand? It's like Coca-Cola now has been imitated. So you have what is called Biggie Cola. So it means you ask yourself, is this product, can it be imitated? Can it be duplicated? You understand? If the answer is no, it cannot be duplicated, then meaning it cannot be imitated. If the answer is no, it cannot be imitated, you understand? Then you are finding out that, oh, you have a competitive advantage. People cannot imitate it. But if people can imitate it, you understand? Oh, people can reproduce it, they can duplicate it, then you have only a temporary competitive advantage, because it's only a matter of time. People will find a way to imitate it. There are a lot of imitations of products out there that we see. For example, look at Indomie. Indomie has a lot of imitation. There are a lot of imitations of Indomie now. You understand? So you have old noodles. You have Dangote noodles. You have, even look at spaghetti. You have a lot of imitation. So the question is, there are products that are not, that you cannot imitate. And that gives you competitive advantage, because the competition cannot imitate. And you know the funny thing, once competitions cannot imitate it, they find a way to try and imitate it, and they cannot. Do you know what they will do? They will start poking your staff members. They will offer staff members within your firm a higher pay to come and work for them, to share the trade secrets of that product with them, so that they can be able to imitate it. The reason for having to pay ×2 what you are paying your staff members now, why this firm is offering that, is because they need them to share the trade secrets of your business with them, so that they can know it and imitate what you are doing and gain competitive advantage over you. So now, so if it's not something that can be imitated, the next question is that, is the organization organized? Do you understand? Is the organization organized? When we talk about organized, organizations don't have proper structure. Even though they have resources that are trapped within the organization, they are not organized. They are not well structured. They don't have a proper formal reporting structure. They don't have good compensation plans or good staff compensation policies. They don't have good management control systems. People steal resources away. You understand? Because there's no control system. Because the organization is not organized, even though they have a lot of resources, money, in terms of manpower, skill sets, they are not holding them in an appropriate way, because they are not organized. At the end of the day, those values escape. You understand? And if it is, the organization is well organized, then you move to the next, which means that you have a sustainable competitive advantage. You don't just have a competitive advantage over your competition, you have a sustainable one at that. Do you understand? Then this brings us to the external analysis of the environment. Remember, we're looking at environmental scanning. As businesses becomes more competitive and there are rapid changes in the external environment, information from the external environment tends to add crucial elements to the effectiveness of long-term plans. So as environment is dynamic, it also becomes essential to identify competitors' moves and actions. Organizations also have to update the core competencies and external environment, as well as internal environment, as per, you understand, the environment as a whole. So environmental factors are what we call infinite. What do we mean by infinite? You understand, you can see so many of them such that you can't exhaust it. The list is unexhaustible. You understand? Factors that could influence an average business around here or within an establishment. You understand? Factors that could affect every organization, they are infinite. Hence, an organization should be agile. And that's what informed the concept of agile in the world today. You hear a lot of talk about agile. Agile is gotten from an English word that means agility. It means being flexible to respond very quickly to changes, being able to adjust accordingly when the environmental factors influence your activities on your business, causing you to adjust to the change that is happening due to the environmental factors. Do you understand? So environmental factors are infinite, and an organization should be agile and vigilant to accept and adjust to all of these environmental changes. So one of the strategies you can adopt as it relates to, the environmental factors that could influence your project, because of that high level of uncertainty, is better to be agile. And one of the strategies you can adopt in your response is a pull system. Now, the pull system is gotten from what we call lean management. How many of us have heard of lean management here? Has anyone heard of lean management here? What do you think lean management is about? Can you share with me? What do you think lean management is about?
I have. My name is Uche.
Amadi, you want to share with us what you think lean management is about?
Okay, my name is Uche. I'm in the lean management department. Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Anybody? Can you share with me what you think lean management is about?
I can hear you. Hello?
Uche, we can hear you.
He's not hearing me.
You should just go ahead. He's the only one not hearing.
Anybody? Can you share with me what you think lean management is about?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll call him.
Hello?
Okay, lean management.
We can hear you. Looks like you don't hear us.
Lean management is actually process improvement.
I'm not hearing you.
You should check the chat box now. I don't know how else to.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What was the last thing you heard, please?
I kept hearing, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay. So
I said lean management, yes, is actually process improvement in a nutshell.
Okay, beautiful. Process.
So it uses a lot of tools.
Yeah.
Yes, to make the process better. So you look at the business and where it has gaps, and you do some studies and then use some lean tools to make the system better. It's actually a continuous thing. It's not a one-stop shop thing. So it's continual.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
Beautiful. So thank you very much for that. So lean management, like the word lean, when it's like you see somebody who's very fat and the person is exercising. Why is the person exercising? The person wants to shed weight to try to be lean. What lean means, some people call it, let's eliminate all non-value adding activities on our project or in our business. Lean, let's eliminate all non-value adding activities. There are some activities that don't add value. They waste our resources. So lean's focus is, how do we eliminate the waste of resources and improve our processes so that the flow will be proper? You understand? Will be seamless. You understand? So it's a process improvement tool, helps you improve your processes. And one of the examples I would love to give here is the pull system. Like many of us must have noticed, you go and order for pizza. Have you noticed that they don't make the pizza down? They don't prepare it and make it down. Have you noticed? They don't do that. What most likely you see is that they have it in, the flour form. And so when you get there, you understand, they will ask you what type of pizza do you want? Pepperoni? Do you want cheese pizza? So when you place your order, they will now go inside and make it and prepare it for you. Actually, you sit down and wait a bit, they'll prepare it, then they will bring it out for you. Meaning, it is a pull system. It means it is based on the order that determines what is made. So we don't make down waiting for people to buy, because you could make so much that at the end of the day it's wasted. People don't buy it. So what do? You make based on order. So as people order for it, you make. As people order for it, you make. Why? So that you don't have waste. It's a pull system in lean management. So it could be a strategy you can adopt to help you, particularly to be able to ensure that in whatever resource that you have, because we had looked at the resource-based approach called VREO, whatever resource you have is not wasted. You have limited resources that you need to manage appropriately. So you must ensure that it is until there's a demand for it, you don't release it. You don't add production to produce it. You don't have them produce it down in bulk. You understand? Saying that in case they need, you see all of this, those in case, what we call just in case. Organizations are shying away from just in case concepts in production and in procurement and going into what we call the pool system. So you must understand the demand and supply structure. And one of the lovely strategies of the demand and supply, is such that you must be able to work with that understanding of ensuring that every product that is produced is meeting its demand. So that you must understand the balance. Why? Because every business has seasons. And if you understand nature, you will understand some of the tricks and secrets on how to run a business. What do I mean? For example, look at the trees and plants and the fruits they bear. So if you look at a mango tree produces fruits in its season. So it means you don't go to a mango tree and find it fruitful all around the year. No, you will never have that. So it has a season where it bears fruit. So also businesses have the season where they are fruitful and productive. So they have what is called peak periods and they have off-peak periods. What does that mean? It means businesses have seasons such that they have times when they are productive and they have times that they are not as productive. Meaning they have times where there's demand and they have times where there is no demand. So what should you do? You should understand that the times there's no demand or there's times that there's high demand, you should have reserves. So you should have what is called contingency reserves, which will bring us to what we call risk management. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about risk management and what it entails. So when you have periods when there's no demand, what do? You take the reserve, which is bringing you to the concept of contingency reserve. You take your reserves to make up for the periods where you have low peak periods or you have low production. You understand? It's something similar to what a guy in the Bible did called Joseph. There was a time where there was famine in a particular location called Egypt. And this guy did this such that in the period of excess, he did something. And the period of lack, where there was famine, what he had stored up, the excess, or what was utilized during the season of famine. You must approach your business that way. That is a strategy in business that helps you balance the demand and supply. Because if you don't understand the demand and supply of every business, that there are businesses that have periods that it will not be productive. It's not something that is like, oh, I'm swearing or cursing. No, it's just the average nature of a business. And in strategy, you must understand it. In strategy, you must understand it that way. In strategy, you must understand it that way. Hello, can you hear me? I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So once you understand the demand and supply, it helps you to be able to manage your business better. Let me give you a typical example of a strategy that you have businesses do. Let's look at companies like PZ or Coca-Cola. You understand? Coca-Cola, for example, you see them that they have the peak periods when they know that they are making a whole lot of sales. So there's demand during that period. And because there's high demand, they produce more. Why? Example of such season, dry season. Coca-Cola sells a lot during the dry season. But once it is the rainy season, where everywhere is very cold, people don't take drinks as much. You understand? Why? Because you don't get very easily tasty during the rainy season. Do you understand? And so there will be drop in demand during that period. And it is that period that you find that in order to even the demand and supply, what you do is that you introduce things like raffle draws. You introduce things like buy one, get two, buy 2, get 1 free. Why are they doing that? They are trying to get people to make purchase. That means they're trying to increase demand during the off-peak period when there's low production. When there's low demand, they're trying to increase the demand by saying, why not buy for the future at a cheaper rate? Meaning you don't need it now. Maybe you only need 1 toothpaste now, but they are saying buy 2, get 1 free. And you feel, why don't I buy 2 and get 1 instead of buying 1? I came to buy 1, but I can buy an additional 1, even if I don't need it now. I can buy an additional 1, which gives me the opportunity to get 1 additional 1 free. Meaning you are paying for money that they can utilize now, you understand, and trade with and turn over in their business, even though you don't have need for it now. So you're buying for the future. That is a strategy businesses use, you understand, to be able to help even distribution such that the demand and supply is balanced, so they don't reduce production during off-peak period. Listen, there's no need to reduce production during off-peak period. Why? Because you can have strategies to have people buy in advance for what they don't need now because it is cheaper. And you can have more money to trade with, to do business with, to turn over, you understand? Because if you have that money to trade with, to do business with, it saves you the stress of going to get loan and then start trading with that money, which is having interest on it. So it's a lovely strategy to help you balance demand and supply. Lovely strategy. Good. So this takes us to another very lovely concept, which I had actually talked about, which is risk. Why? Because every environmental scanning you are doing, you must look at the opportunities ahead and identify the problems that you are trying to design products to actually solve, or the needs that people have, because either 2 things, either needs, you understand, you are trying to meet, or problems you are trying to solve. That's the only 2 things. So your opportunity is to be able to, because problem is actually opportunity. So when you see problems, you are looking at the opportunity to be able to provide solution to that problem. By the time you provide solution to that problem, you increase revenue in your business. You make more money. That is the way it works. Do you understand? So, but because there's a lot of uncertainty as regards this decision you're about to take, even though you have seen the opportunity, you have seen that, oh, let's come up with this product to meet, as a means to solve this problem or to meet this need, you understand? You are not certain of its success. You are not sure whether it will work. So because of that uncertainty, you must set out what we call risk management initiative. Why? Because the underlying premise of enterprise risk management is that every entity exists to provide value for its stakeholders. Every entity survives or exists to provide value for its stakeholders. All entities faces uncertainty, of course, and the challenge for management is to determine how much uncertainty to accept as it strives to grow stakeholder value. Now, uncertainty actually presents both risk and opportunity. That's what it does. So when we say risk management, it is not about eliminating risk. I repeat, when we say you are venturing into enterprise risk management, it's not about eliminating risk. It is about increasing what we call positive risk, because you have positive risk and you have negative risk. Positive risk are opportunities, negative risk are threats. So risk management is how do I increase positive risk and reduce negative risk. That is what risk management is, not the elimination of risk. It is about how do I increase positive risk, which is opportunity, and reduce negative risk, which is threat. Let me give you an example of what we mean by positive risk. A company called StarTime came into the market some years ago, and they created some high-level competitive, you understand, they created a competition for DSTV. Now, StarTime came up with a product that was to attend to low-income earners. Now, DSTV came into the market with the original intention when they came in to attend to high-income earners and medium income earners and high income earners. Those were their target market. But how they became threatened by StarTime marvels me sincerely. But they were threatened by that company because they began to lose their customers to StarTime. That was when they became bothered. Why? Because it was more affordable. And they were also going to get similar programs that were also captured in DSTV. So people stopped subscribing on DSTV and started subscribing and started buying StarTimes. And DSTV made the mistake as a strategic decision. They made the mistake to drop their price for their decoders from 24,500 to 9,500. This happened 7 years ago. Now, when they did this, it was a terrible strategic decision they made, because what happened was that they had a rush whereby there was now high demand beyond the supply. So it meant that they didn't have sufficient products to meet the high demand that came as a result of the drop in price from 24,500 to 9,500. At the end of the day, it affected their brand integrity. Why? Because they could not serve the market. You understand? Even though it was an opportunity that presented itself. Do you understand? Because they had what is called the first mover, meaning they were the first to come into the market at the time, and they made headway. They even were able to beat, I think it was ITEL, or there was one company called ITV, yes, ITV or something like that. They were able to chase them out of the market, particularly when they got the sports right or something for football or something from them, and they were able to chase those guys out of the market. So they had a monotony of the market, but StarTime came in and giving them a run for their money. But look at the strategic decision they made. Very wrong. Now, instead of them to have looked at StarTime and said, listen, what is in this product we are producing to serve these low-income earners, and then design a product like that to serve the low-income earners so that they will not lose their customers' loyalty to their brand. You understand? They drop their price. By the time their integrity had been compromised, they now started what is called a reactive approach. A reactive approach was now having to say, let us now introduce a product called GoTV, after going back to research what StarTime product looked like and how it could actually work within an environment like ours. And they now designed a product called GoTV, and they started to gain advantage over the market because they had more competence and credibility, and how will I put it, a more sustainable quality product than StarTime. And of course, people started migrating from StarTime to GoTV at the end of the day. Now, what was the problem? They made a wrong strategic decision initially. And that was a major problem. But they corrected it eventually. Do you understand? So every strategic decision must be made to be able to take advantage of opportunity. And remember, even though there are uncertainties and there are risks presenting itself, there are positive risks. Why? Because even though that market has opened up for DSTV, the positive risk they would have capitalized on was to initially have introduced GoTV, which they did eventually, which would have given them up, because they are never, DSTV would never have thought of GoTV if StarTimes did not come into the market. They would never have thought of that product if StarTime did not come into the market. So they learned from that. The next time they now had that kind of situation where a company now came in from the international community to contend for them, which was Netflix, they did not dropped their price. They had learned from their mistake. What they now did was they now introduced a similar product called Showmax. Now, by the time they introduced a similar product called Showmax, and they now were able to have a competing advantage with, you understand, Netflix, because they had more local content. This is what we mean by risk management, increasing positive risk and reducing negative risk. You understand? Because risk management is not about eliminating risk. It's about increasing positive risk, which is opportunity, and reducing negative risk, which is anything that threatens your business. So there are ways to manage negative risk, and there are ways to manage positive risk. I'm going to share them with you so that you can understand. So why do businesses fail? Why do businesses fail when they introduce strategies? They rely too much on personal experience. You understand? Your personal experience is not sustainable in a corporate environment. Why? It's a personal experience. It might not work in certain kinds of settings. It might have worked at a time, but it might not work again. So we can't rely on personal experience. We can't rely on your feelings, opinions, or intuition. It's not stable. You understand? That's why businesses fail, because they feel we should go about it this way. You understand? They think we should go about it. You must be sure. You don't have to feel, let's go into this way. You don't have to feel, let's make this decision. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to have an intuition. You must have gathered data to be able to have information from the data you've gathered to be able to make an informed decision. So it means you are able to drive a business and make strategic decisions based on the information you've gathered from data that you have taken from different situations. I'm talking of data that came from the surveys you've carried out, from questionnaires. Do you understand? Data that came from your analysis. And that's why we do data analysis. Do you understand? Why do businesses fail? They rely on reactive approaches. You understand? They rely on reactive rather than proactive. Like what just happened when I mentioned DSTV. Reactive. You understand? They were reacting. Instead of being proactive, they were reacting. One of the companies I love that were proactive is First Bank. So, microfinance all of a sudden came into the market and they stormed the entire market. And some banks started reducing their account balance, like GTB Bank. They reduced their account balance to zero balance, so that you can open an account with zero balance. You understand? And they were trying to attract people because the microfinance were taking over the market. But First Bank didn't react that way. They didn't drop the account balance so low to that point. What they simply did was they were proactive. They designed another microfinance and called it First Bank Microfinance. You understand? So instead of, which was what DSTV did, instead of dropping their price, they just created Showmax to match Netflix. That's more proactive. Do you understand? So why do businesses fail? They rely on industry norms, acting on perspective. You understand? That's why we need a framework or a systematic approach. So in the way you actually go about strategy management, there's a framework, a set of processes you must follow. There's a framework. What is the framework again? Environmental scanning, strategy formulation, strategy implementation, and strategy evaluation. That is the framework you must follow. It's a systematic approach. You must follow this. You understand? Even in the way you manage risk, there's a framework, there's a process you should follow. You should identify the risks that are likely to occur. Then you quantify the risk, rank them, you understand, by analyzing to actually avoid inaccurate or incorrect assignment of these resources. Then you now control the risk. So even in your risk management approach, you must identify all the likely things that could go wrong in this decision, this strategic decision you are making to implement a strategy. Then you must quantify it, meaning is this a high or low risk? Then you must also be able to control it. So there's what we call risk control. You understand? So you must be able to find out that, are we reaching our strategic objective right now? If I ask you now, are you reaching your strategic objective right now? You have strategy sessions at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. So the strategic objective you are set for this year, 2022, this is more than half of the year. Have you achieved half of it? These are questions that you need to, hard questions you need to answer yourself in your department, in your unit. You understand? You must answer these questions. It's a business management system that enables us to look at risk, not just from the financial standpoint, but from a safety angle. You understand? You must look at the business holistically. You understand? And you must analyze, because risk management is embedded in strategy management. Remember, this is a full 3-day course. We're only looking at the introduction into this program. Some of the things I'm saying are they require so much information that it will have to take 3 days to cover this entire program. You understand? So we're just looking at the surface just to give you a good grasp of what strategy management is about and what it entails. And we're just looking at different aspects of it. Now we're looking at the risk management aspect of it, which is the enterprise risk management aspect of it. Now, you must also be involved in defining risk. You understand? And that's where you start from. In identifying risk, you must define risk. What is risk really? Risk is uncertainty, really. It arises when a state is not able to be accurately known or predicted. So if you are taking a decision strategically to say the organization should actually face this direction and explore this opportunity, if you are advising the organization as a management staff, you understand? So if the organization should listen to you, what risk management measures have you taken? Have you identified and defined the risks involved with this step you're advising the organization to take? Because you must define, do you know what risk is? Risk is uncertainty, and it matters. Risk is uncertainty that matters. That's what we're analyzing. And risk is an event with some degree of uncertainty. So risk can be calculated by looking at the severity of the risk, you understand, and the likelihood that it will occur, which is the probability. So the higher the probability, the higher the risk. The higher the impact of this event, if it occurs, the higher the risk. So there's high risk, there's low risk. It's not every risk you should pay attention to. Why? The ones you pay attention to are the ones that are high, not the low ones. The low ones don't need immediate attention, but the high ones are the ones that need immediate attention. So it's a good strategy. It will help you break into the market, explore opportunities. The fact that there's risk involved does not mean we shouldn't venture into it. We should venture into it. We should go into it, but we should put measures in place to mitigate the risk. You understand? So a risk, like I said, could either be positive or negative. You must be conscious of that. Now, what is a risk again? Is a chance that something happening. You understand? The chance of something happening that will have an impact on your company's objectives. What is risk again? A risk is often specific in terms of an event or circumstance and the consequences that may flow from it. Risk is also estimated in terms of the combination of the consequences of an event and their likelihood that it will occur. So when we talk about enterprise risk management, it will be important for anyone who is a manager. Risk management is not only for a department. Risk management is not only for a unit. Risk management is for every team lead, every manager, because whatever you are about to do and that you have made a decision to do, there are risks involved. So you must be able to manage the risks and you must learn it. You understand? It's not for a department or unit alone. It's for every manager, team lead, you understand, departmental head, manager, as the case may be. So when it comes to the enterprise risk management, it's important to be able to have what we call a dashboard. You understand? Enterprise risk management dashboard will help you address these 5 key questions of senior management. Because when we talk about enterprise risk management, it looks something like this. The dashboard, it looks something like this. This is how the dashboard looks like. So what's the purpose of the dashboard? For example, it's to help you understand the condition of the decision you are taking that you want to implement. It helps you understand the condition. For example, when you see the dashboard of a car and you are driving what the dashboard helps you see is the condition of the car as you are driving. So you're able to check the speedometer to find out what's the condition of the car in terms of the speed, what's the condition of the car in terms of its fuel level, what's the condition of the car in terms of its temperature, what's the condition of the car in terms of the time it has taken to move from point A to point B. All these things are placed on the dashboard on the car. It's to help you know the condition of the journey and the car itself as you are moving, so that the car does not just stop and you're like, surprised, what happened? If you are surprised, that means you were not paying attention to the parameters on the dashboard of the car, telling you that, oh, your fuel is low, or the temperature, you understand, is high, or you are over speeding, or those things are on the dashboard of your car. That's the same thing that the dashboard on enterprise risk management is helping you to look at. So any of our strategic or business or financial objectives are so the dashboard helps you ask these questions. So answer these questions rather that senior management will have when they present, you understand, when you present this strategic, initiative to them. So the questions that senior management will ask you when you are presenting this strategy to them, that let's venture into this, let's do this, let's go about it this way, let's do this, and you're a manager advising management on something, senior management will ask you these questions. Are any of our strategic, business, or financial objectives at risk? Are we in compliance with policies, limits, laws, and regulations? What risk, accidents have been escalated by our risk functions and business units? What key risk indicators and trends that require immediate action are present? What are the risk assessments that we should review? These are questions, you understand, that will be asked. Questions that will be asked, you understand, that they will be asking you as regards, the strategy you are trying to advise management to embark on. They'll be asking you these questions. And if you are not able to answer these questions, the management might not be open. They might not be open to accepting whatever strategy you are actually recommending. They will not be open to it. You must be conscious of this. You must be conscious of this. So in order for you to be able to handle this, it's important that you are able to look at the risks involved in whatever you're about to do. The risk involved in whatever you're about to do. And in order to look at the risk, you must be able to say, yes, should we venture into this? It will open up these opportunities for us. It will help us break into the market in this regard, and so on and so forth. This is very, very important. This is very important. Okay. Any questions so far before we continue? Any questions? Any questions from anybody? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions from any of us? Any questions? Any questions, please? Okay, no questions. Oh, so I can proceed. Okay. So in order to be able to implement risk, it's important that you don't just, it's not based on intuition. It's not based on how you feel risk. You understand? Enterprises should actually be managed. What should you do? You should follow a series of risk management processes. First, you must come up with a plan. This decision you have made, this strategic decision you have made to be implemented via strategy implementation. You understand? So remember, you carried out your environmental analysis and you scanned, then you formulate the strategy, then you now implement your strategy, and then you can now evaluate the effectiveness of this implementation. So in order to be able to identify and manage the uncertainty as regards this decision you're about to make, you must manage the risk and align it with a set of processes. What's the process for managing your risk? Come up with a risk management plan. You understand? Just sit down and say, oh, what's a plan of action on how to manage this risk? Once you come up with a risk management plan, the next thing is to identify the risks, all the likely things that could go wrong on your project. What are all the likely things that could go wrong on your project? Identify them and enter them into what is called a risk register. You understand? Enter them into what is called a risk register. The next thing is to now perform what is called a qualitative risk analysis. What is this? It means we need to be able to qualify if this risk is worth our time or not. If it's something that requires our resource or not. If it's something we need to invest our time trying to resolve or not. So you need to qualify whether it's high risk, whether it's moderate risk, whether it's low risk, you need to qualify. Then you need to also quantify it. So you must carry out what is called a quantitative risk analysis. What is that? It means even if you've qualified them as high, moderate, or low, you need to say, okay, if this high risk happens, how much will we make or how much will we lose? Remember, I said risk is positive and negative, meaning it could be positive to bring opportunities to make more money or negative to cause you to lose money. So you're performing a quantitative risk analysis is to now be able to quantify that, are we going to lose 10 million or are we going to gain 70 million by venturing into this initiative that this manager has advised us to go about? You understand? So you must quantify. You understand? Because management only understands naira and kobo. That's what senior management understands, naira and kobo. So you must quantify. If we take this decision, how much are we going to make? If we take this decision, how much are we likely to lose? You must quantify. Then you now draw up what is called a risk response strategy. You understand? A risk response strategy. So in case any of these things happen, this risk you have identified, in case they occur, how do you respond? What's the strategy in place on how you respond? You understand? What strategy do you have in place? I'm going to share all of the risk response strategies when we are going through the full program. Now, the risk response strategy is normally called an acronym called CATM. CATM. C is SEE, meaning you share, you exploit, or you enhance. These are for positive risks that could occur. It's a risk response strategy for positive risk. While the ATM is an acronym that means either you avoid, you transfer it to a third party like an insurance company, or you mitigate it. You understand? That's a risk response strategy for negative risk. Then you now have a control measure. We call it risk control measures. Risk control measure is to monitor the implementation of your risk response plan and to be able to ensure whether it is actually addressing the problem or not. You understand? Whether the risk response strategy was effective or not. You understand? So you must have a way to control the implementation of your risk. So this brings us to the next stage in you understand, risk strategic management process. The next stage, we have gone through the environmental scanning stage. The next thing is now your strategy formulation process. What is strategy formulation again? It refers to the process of choosing the most appropriate course of action for the realization of organizational goals and objectives, and thereby achieving the organizational vision. Because if whatever strategy you are formulating does not align with the overall organization's vision and mission and its goals, trust me, you are off course. Senior management will not fund this strategy. Why? It does not align with their overall mission. It doesn't align with the overall mission of the business. So whatever strategy you are formulating, you must first define what your company mission is, what your company vision is, what your company goals are, and find out if this strategy aligns with it. So the process of strategy formulation basically involves 6 main steps. In the full course, we're going to look at the 6 main steps in full, but I'll highlight what these 6 steps are. Though these steps do not follow a rigid chronological order, however, they are actually very rational and can easily be followed in this order. So these are the 6 steps you need to follow in carrying out a strategy formulation. First, you set your organizational objectives. Secondly, you evaluate the organizational environment. Thirdly, you set quantitative target. Fourthly, you create an aim in the context with which the divisional plan is meant to actually come into play. Then, fifth, you carry out a performance analysis. Then, lastly, you do what is called the choice of the strategy you want to implement. So, because you're going to have different strategy options. So, you don't just sit down and come up with only one strategy. No, you must come up with a variety of strategies to choose from. So your analysis is to look at the most appropriate, the most effective one that will help you actualize the business overall objective and goal for the year. Your business overall objective, you understand, for a 5-year period. So it is from the numerous strategies we come up with that we choose from. The most effective one that will help us actualize the organization's overall vision. Then you move to strategy implementation. What is strategy implementation? It is the transition of chosen strategy into organizational action so as to be able to achieve strategic goals and objectives. And when we talk about strategic implementation, you understand, strategy implementation poses a threat most of the times to many managers and employees in an organization. Now, new power relationships are actually predicted and achieved, via strategy implementation. New groups are normally formed whose values, attitudes, beliefs, and concerns may not even be known. And with the change in power and status roles, the managers and employees may employ confrontation behavior. You understand? So when we come to strategy implementation, there are some main steps that you need to follow in implementing a strategy, and there are 6 of them. The first step is actually developing an organization having potential of carrying out strategy successfully. Second one is the disbursement of abundant resources to the strategic essential activities. It means you are not going to just deploy disburse resources anyhow. You are going to deploy resources to the most essential activities of your strategy first, before you now move to the least essential ones. Step 3, you must create strategy encouraging policies. Step 4, you must be employing the best policies and programs for consistent improvement. Step 5, you must be linking, the reward structure to accomplishment of the results. And then step 6, you must be making the use of strategic leadership. What we mean making the use of strategic leadership, it means there are people who actually have influence over every other person in a team, a unit, a department, or a sector, or an arm of the business. Those people are the people who are actually leading the strategic initiative of every business. It means they are the ones that actually show direction for the organization. They are the ones that have the leadership qualities to be able to get the organization to its desired point, you understand, of location. So there's a strategic leader. There must be someone pioneering this. Then finally, the last stage of your strategy management process is the strategy evaluation. Now, the strategy evaluation is a significant as well as a strategy formulation process, because it throws light on the efficiency and the effectiveness of the comprehensive plans, you understand, that you have come up with in your strategy formulation. Now, the managers can also assess the appropriateness of the current strategy in today's dynamic world with social, economic, political, and technological innovations. Now, strategic evaluation is actually the final phase of this strategic management process. And when we talk about strategy evaluation, the significance of this strategy evaluation lies in its capacity to actually coordinate the task performed by managers, groups, and departments, and so on and so forth, through a proper control of how well the plan implemented, you understand, is actually performing. Because you have formulated your strategy and you've implemented it. So it's to be able to actually evaluate how well this strategy that has been formulated is functioning. How well is it working? Is it actually achieving its objective, its purpose, and so on and so forth? So in the strategy evaluation process, there are these steps that you need to follow. The first step is you must fix a benchmark for your performance. You must say, this is the benchmark, you understand? And it is actually looking at what others are doing and how well they've done it. And you now benchmark with them in terms of, whether you are performing equally as good as they are, you understand? Or you are benchmarking as regards setting a standard for what you want to achieve. Then the next is the measurement of the performance itself. You must be able to measure how well this thing is performing. And one of the measurement tools you can use is what we call a Microsoft project software, because you are actually implementing your strategy via project management. And when it comes to project management, there are two methodologies. There's what we call the waterfall methodology, or there's the agile methodology. Now, the agile methodology can be deployed via a framework we call Scrum. So you must have heard of Scrum, and the team lead for the Scrum implementation is a Scrum Master. Now, these are all programs I will encourage you on the go. A project management training, I will advise you go through that. A Scrum Master certification training, I will advise you go through that as well. You could even go through a training of product management. You understand? All these are trainings that a manager needs to undergo in order to best be able to manage his or strategic, management process more effectively. Now, the third is analyzing variance, the difference between what outcome you've gotten now and what outcome you are expected to get in the first place. Then you can now take what is called corrective actions at the end of the day. Now, what is the objectives of a quantitative analysis? Remember the quantitative analysis we had done earlier in our environmental scanning. So what's the objective? Why should we have, what is the purpose for us to have carried out a quantitative analysis in the initial environmental scanning? Now, the main objective of carrying out the quantitative analysis is actually to predict and forecast organizations' demand and supply. We had seen the concept of demand and supply earlier. Now, to also study the markets, to formulate strategy, to increase the market share, and to also study the market trends and patterns. Now, there are some other quantitative analysis that you can actually carry out apart from the VREO. There's one that we will see in the full program, which we call the BCG matrix. How many of us have heard of the BCG matrix? Now, we're going to see that in the full course, the BCG matrix. BCG matrix. Now, it's a lovely tool that we're going to also use in our analysis at the environmental scanning stage. It helps you do proper, market research. So there's customer research, there's market research in your analysis, particularly during environmental scanning. So you can use these tools. Like we looked at VREO. Remember, we looked at VREO. That's the first one we looked. There's another one that is called the BCG matrix. We're going to look at that in the full program. Then there's another one we're also going to look at in the full course, which is called the Porter's 5 forces. The Porter's 5 forces. Porter's 5 forces. I put them in the chat room. We're actually going to look at the Porter's 5 forces in full when we do the full course. Remember, that is a 3-day program, and it's quite extensive, and it's such that it helps you understand a very intense and a comprehensive understanding of strategic management. We're going to be bringing some facilitators from Lagos Business School and from some other very key management or consulting firms that will actually be handling sessions in this strategy session. Okay, so competitive analysis requires for you to be able to understand the strategy formulation. Its objective is also to be able to help you increase your market share and to study the market trend properly and understand market penetration and market patterns. You understand? So all of those competitive analysis helps you do that. And using these tools, it will help you properly to be able to do that effectively. So in closing, we must close by identifying all the benefits of strategic management. This is where we are going to draw the curtain for today. We must understand all of the benefits of strategic management. These are some of the following benefits of strategic management. Number one, strategic management actually helps to enhance the problem solving and problem preventing capabilities of the firms. Number two, strategic management is also essential as it helps firms to rationalize change and also actualize change and communicate the need to change better to its employees. I also want to encourage you to do a program in business analysis. These are all programs we do in our firm. So if you want to do a proper analysis to be able to actually analyze before you actually come up with a proper formulation of strategy, you must be able to understand business analysis, understand and analyze the business from top to bottom, from the beginning to the end. You understand? And holistically. So in the business analysis program, you're able to understand that in full. Now, it also helps, some of the benefits of strategic management, it helps the organization to make more informed decisions because they have considered both the short-term and long-term consequences. Strategic management also helps organizations in having control over the future due to forward-looking planning and careful evaluation of their priorities. Strategic management also helps an organization to become more aware of the external threats. When we say external threats, remember I talked about one of the other tools in the full program we're going to look at. Many people really have talked about it, but they don't know how to use this tool very effectively, which is called the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is another very important tool that we're going to also be looking at in the full program, SWOT analysis. So you're going to be able to learn how to use these tools appropriately. The SWOT analysis, very lovely tool. In the full program, you're going to learn effectively how to deploy this tool, because it's not what you think. It goes beyond just the surface of strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. You need to understand how to utilize this tool in analyzing your business from the beginning to the end. Now, these are all tools a business analyst uses. You understand, and you will get to learn it in this course. It will really give you an advantage in your management of your unit, your department, your team, and the business as a whole. Strategic management also helps an organization to become more aware of the external threats and understand the competitor's strengths and weaknesses and increase employee productivity. Okay, so this is where we are going to draw the curtain for today. At this point, I'm going to entertain any questions that any of us have. Congratulations, you've successfully completed the session. So I'm going to, at this point, attend to any of the questions we have so that we can actually draw this meeting to a close. So in case you have any question,